do that too. So by virtue of all the practice that she's done, she's experiencing reality as it is. Oh, here's an upset because he's truly believing that I'm screwing with people and robbing them of money, which would be a horrible thing to do. I would be upset as well. I love that you just said that. Because we could be thinking about how we can do that, right, as influencers. How much more effective would we be as influencers if we didn't respond defensively? I'm so glad you said that. That's a really great thought, is to imagine, like, if I can develop my emotional mastery to the point where I don't respond defensively. Like, and that's one of the 4 agreements. Don't take stuff personally. Right? Take nothing personally. And how much more how much bigger does our contribution become when we get rid of that emotional weakness? That's brilliant. Okay, any other thoughts or comments before we get back into the freedom formula? All right, so how I think governs my states, my emotional states. And we seriously could just stop there. That could be the end. That's the cornerstone, right? I want to become a master of my states. Think, feel. It's a little bit, I write it TFDR, think, feel, do, results. It's the same thing. What's it say on there? Like thoughts, emotions, behaviors or actions, and outcomes and results? Yeah. So think, feel, do, results. How I think completely governs my states. My state, right? Every state I will ever experience, every state, emotional state, mood I've ever experienced in my life was the product of one thing and one thing only. It's how I was thinking in that moment. It was not what was going on. It was what I was thinking about what was going on. Marcus Aurelius said that. Right? That if you're feeling anything unpleasant, it's not due to the experience itself, but your own estimate of it, which you have the right to revoke at any time. Now, my states govern how I behave, how I act, what I do, if I do anything. If I'm thinking that something is impossible, I feel hopeless, I do nothing and guarantee a nothing result. And I deal with that all the time. As a coach, one of the first questions that I ever ask anybody in my coaching is, what's the miracle that we're creating in your life? Right? What's the great impossibility that we're going to create in your life? And if their thinking is low on the possibility of what they want or having their lives on their terms, which is, by the way, how I define success. I also call myself a success coach. Success as defined by having your life as you want it to be. If you're not thinking that that's or even a probability, we'll say, then you're feeling discouraged. And that governs the action, the quality and quantity of action that you take, which then doesn't govern, but massively influences outcomes. So let's just use like this today as an example. All right, this is, you could just say this is like a performance. Public speaking, it is. It's the number 1 human fear. Did you know that? Yeah. People are more afraid of doing what I'm doing right now than they are of dying. We're going to stop talking about that now. No, it's true though. So coming into this, say I'm thinking stuff like I did. Like I love doing this. I'm so thankful that you had what I consider to be a pretty obscure referral, Carrie, from work that I did years ago, that how this came about. That this is my first opportunity to share my wares with educators. And I love that so much. Because this is me maybe opening up a whole new realm for myself, for my passion. I don't have a family. I'm pretty clear I'm not going to have kids at this point. And I believe that my legacy, and I'm not even stretching this, will be what we're talking about right now. Is if I can get this into curriculum, man, my life is, that'd be a big deal for me. If I could get this practice, if I could get mental toughness training as fundamental curriculum, that would be a pretty huge win for me. And I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, I love doing this. I've been doing this forever. This is really meaningful, to me. I've practiced so much. I believe I've got a tremendous level of mastery at it. It's fun as hell. If I'm thinking stuff like that coming into today, how then am I likely to feel? If those are my thoughts, if that's the content that I'm choosing to fill my mind with, then what kinds of states am I creating? Energized? Yes, competence, and that's a huge one for this, right? Competence is huge. Right? Enthusiasm, reward, gratitude, all the high-grade states. I'm thinking my way right into them. When I'm creating those states, then how am I most likely to perform? See, again, this isn't rocket science, right? Be really enthused about the simplicity of this, right? The better I think, the better I feel, the better I do, right? Which maximizes the likelihood of me actually having the outcome that I desire. It doesn't guarantee it. There are no guarantees. I used to study astrophysics, and one of the biggest takeaways from astrophysics was that we live in an uncertain universe. It's like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and all that stuff. We can't truly know things with 100% certainty. Cannot. But we can maximize the hell out of our odds. Right? And that's what we're doing here, is we're maximizing the odds. So what we can guarantee, though, here is that when I think great, I feel great. That it's just like the sun's going to come up in the east tomorrow. Maybe it's true that it won't, but it always has. And it's always been true that when I think great, I feel great. So that's a guarantee so far, right? And then that maximizes the likelihood of me having, being, doing, or getting what I want. Now, there's always the flip side, right? And this is what we've learned to do. Say I came in here today and I was thinking instead, like probably most people do when they do public speaking, is they think disastrous thoughts. Like, what if I go off on one of my patented tangents and completely lose my train of thought, which I'm always doing. I haven't done that yet today. Here I go, I'm doing it right now. I'm reeling it in. Yeah, what if they're just not digging it? What if they're not into it? What if I space out, or what if I'm late? If I'm thinking all these kinds of things, then what states am I creating with those choices of thought content? Stress, anxiety, incompetence. Sorry?
Remedial.
I'm sorry?
Remedial.
Remedial.
Your performance would be remedial.
Oh, okay, so you're a step ahead of me. So that's right, and that would influence the way I would show up. I've never had an amazing performance when I was riddled with anxiety. Ever. Is it possible to have a great performance when you don't feel amazing or nothing great? Yes, it is. Is it likely? No. Is it going to be consistent? Oh, hell no. Right? And then, of course, when I'm performing poorly, that I'm not getting the result that I want. The result in this scenario is that I want to enjoy myself. I trust the deep intelligence of fun. I write on that a lot. The intelligence of fun. I did a whole interview on that. That might even be a title of an upcoming book. The intelligence of fun. So I want to trust that. I want to have fun, and I want to deliver. I want to know that when I leave here and drive home, that I shared what I considered to be some remarkably valuable tools with people that they can go use to upgrade their lives and their professions and their experience of life.
So how do you stop yourself? Because sometimes you don't even know you're being negative until partway down the road.
Thank you for the segue. So,
$5.
yeah. From whom? From me? What do you mean? I gotta pay you for that? That's what I just said. I gotta pay her for that? Well, now I'm going to stop asking questions. That's negative reinforcement for me. Then it's going to like balance out. Now I got to really raise my fees. No wonder that guy charges so damn much. I know why now he was going to charge so damn much, because he wasn't even going to make a profit. He's going to ask all these questions. That's pretty funny. I don't even know what the story is behind that. What is the story behind that?
Well, because I'm mostly an happy person, but I've had situations where...
No, I meant the $5.
Oh, the $5?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought you should pay me.
I know. Why?
Because I like meat.
Oh, that's just, you're just making that up. I thought that was a thing.
No.
Oh, you're just making that up. Totally making that. Oh, that's so great. I love your sense of entitlement there. This just got even funnier. So the practice is what's at the bottom of the page, right? Catch, own, and replace. And it is a practice, and it takes a lot of practice. But you can see results after very little bit of practice. So what you're doing is you're catching yourself. And let's talk about it in some other language. And this is language that actually I find is very sticky in cultures that I work with. All right, so remember how we did this exercise where I said think of something tragic and then think of something hysterical? And I said, you basically just traverse the entire human emotional spectrum from dark to light in an instant, right? So that's the spectrum. So let's turn that on its side. So it looks like this. Okay, put the plus up here. This is the low grade states. And over here is neutral. So it's still the range of possible human emotional states. Where do all your states come from? Every single mood you have ever or ever will experience, where does it come from? Thoughts. Yeah, from your brain, but specifically from your cognition, right, from thinking. So we're going to call this the range of interpretation. Right? The possible ways that you can think about reality, right? And this neutral, so you can make the argument for simplicity's sake that there are really only three ways to interpret reality in every moment. In a way that has you feel uninspired, neutrally, or in a way that has you feel inspired. Right? Like a neutral observation. An observation is a neutral interpretation. This marker this is a red Sharpie. I have no charge, plus or minus on that. Right? This is a red marker, and red's my favorite color. So that's a high-grade interpretation. This is cool because it's my favorite color. Cool. So that's just an interpretation. Right? Or it sucks because it smells. This thing stinks. That's a low-grade interpretation. So those are my three options. And it's like, anybody a tennis fan here? Why are you only... Why is it? So you don't have to be a fan to get the analogy. We'll say like Roger Federer. We'll say that Roger is serving against Cilic, like this is Wimbledon, and he aces him. Right? And if you don't know what that means, all it means is that he smoked a serve that the dude couldn't even return. Just passed him, got a point. Right? So Roger Federer, who aced him, is pumped because he just got the point. Cilic, who just got smoked, is pissed because he just got burnt. And the umpire in a chair couldn't give a damn. So those are three unique interpretations of one event. Right? So, and they're all true to the person who's creating the interpretation. So this is the range of interpretation. And we'll say this middle line, the neutral line, is called the observation line. Right? And again, an observation is a neutral interpretation. All right? So the practice is to catch yourself. Here's the answer to your question finally, is to catch yourself when you're feeling unpleasant. Start to practice exercising your internal awareness so that you don't just go on and on and on down the road in a low-grade state. Practice, like I said, the most mentally tough, happiest, successful people choose to exist in a perpetual state of self-inquiry, right? Always asking yourself questions like, how am I feeling right now? Put messages on your dashboard. Use the reminder system, on your phones or alerts. Like I have stuff all over my house reminding me of what I need to remember. I'm creating an app with a client of mine, a techie client, on this. So I have text messages. I'm sure that I have some right now. They're here reminding me. There they are, because I saved it as "be present with this," and they're personalized messages to myself so that I don't have to only rely on my memory, so that I can be reminded. And I love that word so much. Is I'm reprogramming the way I'm using my mind, right? So I can be reminded of how do I want to be right now. So how am I thinking? Catch yourself when you're feeling unpleasant. In other words, catch yourself when you're below the O line. This is the O line. And that's the language, that's the nomenclature that I would invite you guys to use in your culture as you, and to invite each other to be accountability partners on this. The more people that I give the green light to say, hey, if you catch me bitter, please feel free to remind me that I have another option. If I say, hey man, get above the O line. And I know what that means. I'll just go, Raj, thank you. Or mind your own damn business. But I have options. But you want to catch yourself. So the practice is catch, own, and replace, right? So I want to catch myself when I'm feeling unpleasant. In other words, when I'm below the O line, when I'm having a problem, when my response to reality is lower than neutral, is worse than like isness. Is. One of my other favorite mantras is ain't bad, just is. William Shakespeare said something like that, where it's like, nothing good or bad happens until you think it so. Right? So it just is. Everything just is until you put an interpretation on it. Right? So you want to catch yourself when you're below the O line. And when I invited you guys to eliminate complaints, what that means is systematically eliminating your low-grade interpretations of reality. So can you imagine what your life is when you only live above the O line? Right, when you're not disabling your creative genius with problematic interpretations of reality. So that's the practice. Catch yourself whenever you're feeling unpleasant. Then the second step, and this is huge, this can't be skipped, is ownership. The practice is catch, own, then replace or upgrade. So the second step is ownership. And here's the ownership phrase. I'm not feeling this way because of what's going on. I'm feeling this way because of how I'm thinking about it. And that's always true. That's ownership. That's you taking full ownership of your experience in the moment. Right? I'm not feeling this way because of what's going on. I'm not frustrated because of the traffic. I'm only feeling frustrated because of the way I'm thinking, and I can upgrade that. All right, that's ownership, and then the last step, of course, is to upgrade or replace. Replace what? Replace the thought. Replace the interpretation. And I can go to gratitude. I can do a million things, but gratitude is just an easy, always useful default response. It's a very intelligent default response. I'm thankful for these roads, right? I'm thankful for that car. I'm thankful for where I'm going. Even if I am a little late, I'm thankful that I have this opportunity. You can never exhaust gratitude. And I don't believe that there is an experience where gratitude is not available to you. Even Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp, was able to choose that. That's from his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Okay, any thoughts or comments or questions at this point on anything that we've covered so far? Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break. and then we'll move on. So, we could really stop now and comfortably say that what we just practiced is profound. That's like life-altering. And I'm not kidding. When I switched over from being a therapist, from being a licensed therapist, over to a sports psychologist, there's a pretty big shift. One of the golfers, the professional golfers that I started training, had a friend who was suicidal. And he said to me, I want you to work with him because he's seriously ready to off himself. I'm like, dude, that's not my deal anymore, man. I'm working with athletes. And he goes, yeah, I know, but whatever, just do that stuff with him. Do what you've been doing with me. And I said, man, look, no, because I'm not equipped. Like when I was working for mental health agencies, they got resources for people that are seriously ready to kill themselves. And I'm just in private practice. I don't even have malpractice insurance. I don't want to mess with this. And then he dropped a shame card, and he's like, I'll bring him to every session and be here with him. And he's like, your play. I said, oh, all right. If you're willing to demonstrate that level of commitment to this person, then I'll give it a whirl, but I'm not making any promises. And the guy came in, and he was bona fide suicidal. And I know the deal because I spent years and years working with people in crisis, so I know all the questions, And he had ideation. He had a plan. So, I told him, you are a hair away from needing to be hospitalized, and I'm no longer qualified to do that other than just say, go. And his friend brought him every time. So he'd come twice a week, and all we did was what we just did. Okay, but really practiced it and practiced it and practiced it, which was really hard for him because he was so deeply bought into his negativity. He was so habituated into experiencing reality so diabolically, drastically, that this was painful work for him because it was almost insulting because he was so convinced of his problematic interpretation of reality. But he chipped away and chipped away. And he turned it around completely. And then he's become one of my best friends, as a matter of fact, and he got recently his master's degree from Harvard. And now he's buying up all this land in Minnesota, becoming a millionaire in his 30s. It's just great. And all he did was that. So he actually has a testimonial on my webpage. New webpage, launched last night. Very excited about it. By the way, while I'm thinking of that, my webpage is a good resource because it's got my blog on it, and I'm always putting out mental toughness videos that are short but poignant. So you can access those and use them as reminders for yourself, but they're also resources for your students. Okay? Anyone. But these tools will help youth with their academic performance profoundly. So if you want to check it out, I think my website is on the bottom of several of the handouts. Okay, so before we move on, we're going to cover some other tools. But I just started to say that we could seriously stop here and say this was a success if you'll go practice it. So can you tell me that you have total clarity, you're completely, unambiguously clear on what the practice is that accompanies what we've just gone through, the freedom formula, and elevating your state? Who can tell me what it is? What's the actual practice? Because I pledged in the beginning, I'm not leaving here until I know that I have not just talked around theoretically neat stuff it's equipped you with actual tools, like real, practical, immediately applicable techniques and practices and disciplines. And I've given you two. They're pretty much the same though. Eliminate complaints, and what's the other one? What's the practice that accompanies? What is it? Yes, catch, own, and replace. So please sync that. Because I'm pretty sure that we're not going to cover anything as powerful as that. That's not to diminish the other techniques and tools, but they like accompany. The rest of this is going to be meaningless if that isn't in place. That's why I call it the foundation. The other tools are supportive in our quest to take back control of our minds and to use them in skillful ways and masterful ways that have us maximize the likelihood of us being, doing, or getting what we want. But this is imperative for any of that to occur. That you remember okay, so I'll say it again. The most mentally tough people, happiest people, successful people, choose to live in a perpetual state of self-inquiry, meaning they're always asking themselves questions like, how's my state now? What kind of mood am I thinking my way into in this moment? Can that be upgraded? Is my state serving me in this moment? Or I'm going into an event, what would be the ideal state going into this meeting? What would be the ideal state for me going into this potentially conflictual conversation with a parent whose child is not showing up? All right, or with the teaching coach who's not getting it done. I understand that happens on occasion. Or is that just rumor? And those are amazing. And if we have time, I want to get to some role playing on exactly that, because those, in my opinion, are some of the great. In fact, let's just take a second on that right now, since we're on it. One of the most in my one-on-one coaching, there are tremendous similarities between what I do and what you do. You're an educational coach, especially by design of being online. You really are. It's like really like you're coaching. And part of my coaching is the agreements that Carrie, you mentioned in the very beginning. And you shared, so everybody has the link to the audio program called Expectations versus Agreement. And that was has anybody heard it? Has anybody listened to it? Okay, so that's recorded by my former coach, Steve Chandler. He's got a funny voice, doesn't he?
Hi, this is Steve Chandler.
He's going to watch this video. Love you, man. But he is the master of that, and I really want you to listen to that. It's, I don't know, what, like 30 minutes long? And it's profound. I listen to it all the time, reminding myself of the powerful distinction between toxic expectations, which we've all been conditioned to have of each other, especially in relationship, and then versus the power of a co-created agreement. So part of my coaching experience, my one-on-one coaching, is I always wrap it up with what I call the agreements conversation. It's the very, very end of each coaching session, and I don't assign homework anymore. I co-create agreements. So I say to my client, all right, we've only got a few minutes left. Let's talk about our agreements. So what is it that, and I coach them through this. I'm like, don't say yes unless you know with 100% of your soul that you're going to deliver. So be stingy with you can negotiate with me. I'll stand my ground, but I'm not going to force you to do anything. Right? I want you to participate in this as an agreement. Because when people have hand in the game, when they've given their word, people want to generally keep it. When they've participated in agreement, they generally do want to keep it because it's powerful and it feels good to do so. And the converse is true. It feels weak and powerless not to. However, there is so much value when a client comes back and has not kept their agreements. Well, let me rephrase that. There is tremendous potential value in that if it's handled masterfully. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about, you had mentioned, you said something I really loved about, I think it was Byron Katie. Oh, yeah, that was it. It was Byron Katie when she responded by not taking it personally, right? And it was a tremendous transformational moment. I mean, here I am talking about it years later, right? That's how powerful that is, that it's actually become a story that occurs regularly in people's presentations and in learning. But so when a client shows up and, one of the first things I do is I'll say, so, did you do what you said you were going to do? And if they go no, then I put aside all of my agenda for that day and I say, okay, so now it's time for us to have the integrity dialogue. And I preface it for a long time by saying, you are not being yelled at, you're not being punished, I'm not attacking you. This is me actually demonstrating love for you and serving you. I'm definitely going to confront you because I can absolutely assume by virtue of you demonstrating your willingness to break your word in this context, that means you're willing to break it in other contexts as well, which means you're hemorrhaging power and that's not going to serve you in life. So let's just fix that. And then say, so why? Why didn't you get it done? And get into the conversation. And say, I'm not saying, why didn't you? There's no finger pointing or wavering. No, it's like just like, how come you ordered that for lunch? How come you didn't get it done? Let's just figure it out. And sometimes it's something as simple as organizational skills that just need to be enhanced. Okay, fine, good. Or maybe it's something else. Who knows? There is a reason why they didn't get it done. It could be maybe I didn't see value in it. Okay, well, there's great value in learning in that. Then why did you put your word on it? Did you lack the courage in the moment when we were doing agreements to say, I don't want to agree to that yet because I'm not sure where the value is. So we could have had that, and let's have that conversation in the future. And those are some of the most powerful learning moments in my coaching experience. So I invite you to listen to that audio program and then to explore how it's possible, how it might be possible for you to incorporate agreements. Now, I don't know that that's appropriate for working with like really young kids, but it's definitely appropriate for working with their parents or the teaching coaches. But you'll have ideas on how you can incorporate agreements into your work and definitely into your relationships. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions on what we've covered so far? On anything? Okay, so you totally buy into the fact that no one can make you feel anything. That you totally buy into that no one can upset you. No one can ever upset you.
I want to believe it, but sometimes in real life,
Well, none of this has to do with real life. Who said anything about real life? Absolutely, yes. So I'm glad you said that. That's why it's work. This is work. It's simple, but it is work. And it's the same as working out. It's the same as exercise. It is brain training. And it requires tremendous amounts of repetition. Right? So we have thought habits. I articulated one of mine that I still habitually interpret a lot of things problematically. My default response is very frequently, this sucks or this is a problem. And I practice the hell out of this. But you know what's great? Is over the years, I have gotten so much better at turning it around instantly. Like spending very little time below the O-line. My habits are still there, some aren't. I came home from a trip one time and I was in Kuala Lumpur, and I came home after like 2 weeks and my front door was literally open. Right? Is that a problem? Hold on. Slow it down. Slow it down just a skosh. It's a trick question. Well, it's not a trick question. It's a real question. Is that a problem? Yeah, right. Depending on what? Well, it can be if you want it to be. It can be anything you want it to be. It could be, yeah, right. Yeah, like surprise, your electronics are all gone. Woo, let's party. And that's the kind of party it was. No, see, that's an auto response. See, and I appreciate it. But aw, well, no. Why is that? Why?
because you can get used to it.
Well, there's so many different ways. But why is the auto response? Just think it through. This is the practice, right? And it is tricky. It is very tricky. So this is not. This is like advanced stuff. Okay, it's simple in nature, but God, it takes a lot of awareness to even like get to applying it. So why is that an automatic, unpremeditated response to me saying my house was robbed and stuff got taken? Compassion for what? Is there a bad thing that happened that needs compassion? No. That's the I did. Well, those are the facts. I was robbed. My house was robbed. That is a statement of fact. That's an observation. Right? Is it a bad thing?
We assume that it's a bad thing for you, so that's why we're showing it.
And where does the assumption come from that it's a bad thing for anyone?
Maybe she's been wrong.
And why would that have been a problem? Why is it a problem?
They spend money.
Let's really go, let's just, this is great work. This is the work. So I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're not moving on yet because this is the real work. So now let me just time out for 1 second and say, reiterate, this, we are working right now, okay, on challenging our assumptions. Now we can go back and agree with it if you want, because that's your freedom. You get to choose anything. You can have as many problems as you want. They're unlimited. But you don't have to have any if you don't want. That's just an option. That's all I'm here to say. Is it's an option for you to reinterpret reality. If you don't enjoy problems, you can have none.
Was it a problem for you?
It wasn't, and that's why I thought of the story, because I was actually shocked that my reaction was, now I know I was drinking wine the night I left, but I don't think I was drinking that much wine. So I walked in and stuff was gone, and I'm amazed. I was amazed. I'm like, I'm not even upset. I'm not even upset. Like, I definitely checked the house to make sure there wasn't anybody there that was going to hurt me. And then when I realized, okay, stuff's gone, TVs and stuff, I'm like, this ain't bad. This ain't a problem. One of the reminders that I send myself on my phone here, let's see if this is it, the synchronicity. Love it. I have like 15 reminders. The one that just came last is, this is the best damn thing that could have happened. I am reprogramming myself to have that response to everything. I said it today in traffic. This is the best damn thing that could happen. And then I figure out why, if I want to. Because I can have it be, that can be true. There's a mantra that every set of circumstances can be leveraged for individual and collective gain, but only if viewed masterfully. Every set of circumstances can be leveraged for individual and or collective gain, but only if viewed masterfully. You can create greatness out of everything and anything. So that was an example. Isn't that funny? Like, my house gets robbed and I had no problem. And I get in traffic this morning, I'm like, damn! It's just habits, and we can break them. Habits are very fragile. Habits are very fragile. Habits neurologically are just neural pathways, which are so fragile. They're more fragile than the hair. And all that is required to break a habit is consciousness, awareness, and then the repetition of an alternative. And my alternatives are coming in my text messages, and you can come up with your own ways of reminding yourself of what are your alternative responses to reality. And this is my favorite one right now, which is practicing going, this is the best thing that could have happened. So I upgrade, so I catch myself, and that's the practice. Without that, you got nothing to do. You can't go anywhere if you're just stuck in it, which most people are. And I tell you that is actually a sad thought, that so many people go through their entire lives being governed by unpleasant emotions and don't even know that they have the option of snapping out of it now without anything being different. That's why this has to get into schools. There's so much unnecessary suffering. Okay, you had...
So we're assigning values to different emotions. So we're assigning a negative value to anger, frustration, and a positive value to the happiness. So, just realistically speaking, if we're on that spectrum, don't we sometimes want to be on that negative? I'm kind of thinking yin and yang. Don't we sometimes want to be on the negative to more appreciate that positive?
It's your call, and that's it. That's all I got to say. I choose that sometimes. Look, I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, for Christ's sake. How the hell am I supposed to choose joy? Are you really? Not a baby. He understands where I'm going with this. That's hell. I choose, like I follow seriously, our teams are all terrible. So, right now. And I have parties over at my house every Sunday during football season. We watch the Eagles lose. and if you saw me on a Sunday, you're like, that dude is not qualified to teach emotional intelligence. Because I choose to believe it matters. I choose to buy into the hype. That's my choice. I know it's meaningless to me. This is meaningless to me. But it's fun for me to believe it matters. So that's an option. We have options, and that's the beauty of all this is we're totally free. If the anger, test it. I am in no position to give you advice. It's like the question I referenced earlier sometimes when people say, so I'm supposed to be happy when I get a flat tire? I'm like, no, I don't care how you are. You do whatever you want. But just know that you have choices. And that you can choose anger. You're free to do that. And just test it and see, does it serve you? That's what I would experiment with, is to see what comes with this lever, anger. Does excellence come? Do I want to repeat it? And if you like it, then repeat it. Then experiment with joy and humor, and just see what the outcomes are and whatever you prefer, and then you get to choose that. That's the freedom, and that's what's so beautiful. Now, I will add to this. If you really study human peak performance research, it all indicates that when you choose the higher grade state, you perform better. And it's hard to argue with the data. But I do like what you're saying about the yin and yang. So experiment and see what works for you. Yes?
Sometimes anger or very serious frustration actually can move you to a positive thing because it opens up things that you were ignoring that needed to be dealt with, and enable you to completely turn around into another track. Like, this is not going to happen again. These are the steps I'm going to be taking. So it's not necessarily.
Yeah, the only tiny bit of that I would challenge is that you use language that's passive, saying sometimes the negative events move you to a better thing. No, you do that on your own with an interpretation, because you can respond. You can have an event and you can spiral down. You could just do nothing, or you could spiral up with it. It's all your call. I definitely agree that there can be value. Like I said, every set of circumstances can be leveraged for individual or collective gain, but only if viewed masterfully. If I have a problem with the problem, I'm done. Yes.
I just kind of thought, working with children, do you feel like people are born, like really small children, they just automatically go to the positive because they haven't learned to go down in that state yet? Do you feel like the blank slate, the baby, the child, the first grader, they're like excited about everything? You bring out, a box and they get super excited. And then the older they get, they're moving down and it's harder to get them back up. So do you feel like that?
I'm very encouraged by that. I do. I 100% believe that. I 100% believe that our default position as humans is to choose joy, is to choose spiritedness, right? Is to experience reality in what you can call the abundant mentality. I have a great story about that, and I'll tell you in a second. Until we're educated about our limitations, or until we learn what failure means, until we are taught to be self-conscious, until we're taught doubt. Like when we come into this world, I believe we're doubtless. How can you be more mentally tough than that? Like, I haven't been taught yet to entertain the possibility of not getting what I want. But then we master it. It paralyzes people. In my coaching, the number one mistake that I see people make is waiting to move in the direction of their desires because they've got all these nonsense reasons. Here's the story. So I'm actually home in Jersey when this happened, at my sister's house watching an Eagles game. True story. And at the time, she only had one child, Benny, and he was an infant, And he wasn't even walking yet. So she's in the kitchen. I'm in the family room watching the game. And she yells in, "Hey, Chris, Benny's coming in there. Keep your eye on him." And I say, "Okay, I got him." So the TV's over there. He's coming in. And I had tossed my keys up on top of the ledge over the fireplace, right over here, about 5 feet off the ground. And Benny is like crawling into the room, and he's crawling towards me, and I'm thinking he's crawling to me in my infinite egoic wisdom. He wasn't. He had, when he was over there, he must have, and I didn't know this until retrospect, he must have seen the keys because they had situated themselves underneath one of these like recessed lights in there, so there must have been glistening. So he had seen this glistening object in the sky. And it became an object of desire for him. And what happens next is so remarkably profound that speaks to your point. He moved towards. He didn't hesitate. He didn't stop and reflect on things like, how the hell am I going to get those? Those are 5 feet off the ground. I'm like, I can't even stand up yet. How am I going to do it? How's that going to work? He didn't pause and reflect upon like self-consciousness stuff like, what if I try and fail? I might look stupid in front of Uncle Chris. He didn't have deservedness, hesitation, like, they're not mine. He hadn't learned any of that stuff yet. So he's free. He's operating from a purely abundant mentality without any questions in his field of consciousness. Desire, move towards, in the direction of. So I like to use another mantra, which is, the how is in the what. The how is in the what. And people like Deepak Chopra, who's one of my favorite teachers, they like to use fancy words for simple stuff. His version of the how's in the what is, inherent within your desires are the mechanics for their own fulfillment. You don't have to say it like that. But it's still true. Inherent within your desires are the mechanics for their own fulfillment. I just like to simplify and say the how's and the what. Like in this story, the what are the keys. The what is it that's interesting, right? And then how in the hell am I going to get those? This is the how. And that's the number one obstacle that I witness people is coming up against, the how obstacle. The number one obstacle that that human beings paralyze themselves with is in the pursuit of life on their terms is not seeing how, learning that that's actually necessary. So what happened was Benny's crawling towards, he crawls past me. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And now I am curious because now he's like right by the brick fireplace. So I'm making sure he's not going to hurt himself. And he's looking up, making little baby noises. And I'm like, what is it that you're doing? And I'm like, oh. I get out of my chair, and I'm like, oh, he must want the keys. I get the keys, and I drop them, and he's got them. He got them. He got them. He manifested his desire with virtual, effortless ease. I did all the damn work. So what were the mechanics, right? His desire was the what? He wanted to go check out the shiny thing in the sky. How's he going to get them? He don't care. Whatever, just move towards and activate the mechanics. In this case, the mechanics were me getting off my ass and handing them to him. But what most of us do is we pause, we hesitate because we learn to, and we don't activate the mechanics. We just operate on the assumption that something is perhaps out of reach. Now the great news is that, and this is what like Alan Watts is another one of my favorite teachers from history. We get to return to that with all the cool stuff that we have learned along the way. If we can practice these techniques, we get to return to that abundant mentality. We can return to our natural state of doubtlessness. Have you ever heard the story of the metaphor of Michelangelo's statue of David? So the parable is like this. Back in the day when Michelangelo just finished the statue. Has anybody ever seen David live in Florence? Can you describe it?
Big.
Yeah, it is.
Big.
It's big. It is. It's amazing, right? It's like you just stand there and go, whoa. Because the detail is mind-boggling. It's made out of, is it marble? Granite? It's hard stuff. And And he made it with a chisel and a hammer. It's incredible. It's absolutely just amazing, right? Arguably one of the greatest, or the greatest sculpture in the history of sculptures. So anyway, back in the day when he finishes it, the town of Florence is all buzzing about it. It's like, oh, he's up to it again. Guy hears about it, and he says, I'll go see it. He also is blown away by its magnitude and its detail and its beauty, and he goes and he's like, I got to find Michelangelo and ask him how he pulled that off. So he does. He finds him. He says, dude, seriously? How'd you create David? That's amazing. Like, that's so amazing. It's huge and so detailed out of this like amorphous block of rock. How did you create it? And he goes, I didn't. And the guy's a little puzzled. He's like, what do you mean? And he says, I didn't create David. He said, David already existed, concealed within the stone. All I had to do is chip away at what wasn't David. And that's what we're doing here. To return, we're chipping away at the stuff we've picked up that's like dead weight, right? That doesn't serve us. Beliefs, ways of interpreting reality that would have us, again, settle, struggle, or worse, suffer. And that's why this is all so encouraging to me, because that's really, to me, that's the game of life, is that we get to do that. We're designed to grow. We get to return to our natural state of abundance and infinite possibilities. We're experience the world as a field of infinite possibilities and choose enthusiasm, or choose frustration at times. Choose whatever you want. You get to choose the path. So, any other, yes?
I have a question. Kind of going with talking about how the kids, they don't see the limit on possibilities. So how do you guide a child or a student where, there are times that they should not find glee in something. We don't say you have to be happy that you beat your sister. That's not okay. And in providing those limitations, they start creating those negative doubts where they okay, I have to stop and think, can I do this? Where you're saying we want to take them past that. So
Yeah.
what would be the appropriate way to provide those guidelines of this is these are okay actions. These are things that are acceptable in terms of not going to hurt someone without creating those doubts.
So my own theory on that, and this comes from having worked with kids with, quote, behavior disorders, which 90% of the case was a kid with parents with parenting disorders, is that there is an intent behind him beating his sister. All right? His decision to beat his sister was a maladaptive response to something that's actually legit. I got to get in. I got to get inside and find out what was the desire and help him discover an alternative methodology that won't cost him that much, and have it be selfishly motivated, not moralistic. You shouldn't do that. That never works. That's never a sustainable method of behavioral change. And this is reinforced when I work with gang kids, because that's a tough deal there. Especially when you're like a white boy like me. They're like, what the hell do you know about me? Like, what kind of... So I wanted to align. I had to. If I was going to have any effect whatsoever, I had to trust that whatever was behind the decision to keep stealing cars was legit. They want something, and there's something legitimate about the desire. They just have a maladaptive way of exercise or acting upon it. So whether it's being acknowledged as powerful is often it. Is simply being acknowledged as a powerful human being, someone with power, someone that makes a difference or can have an influence, can be respected or acknowledged or admired, for being meaningful. A lot of times that's what it is. Not always, but there's something. There's always something that if we can get to what it is, then we could. Then you can be gleeful about that. I don't want to be gleeful about beating my sister, but I want to be gleeful about the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to honor some truth in me that can be expressed totally differently than that not only costs someone something, but can actually create greater good for all of us collectively. An alternative, because it's like put them on him. Say, what are you getting out of this? Like, what's the value you got out of being your sister? Anybody have an answer? But it's like, and now what's the cost? I'm just on your side. Let's do a balance sheet. Let's come up with a smarter way of dealing, of you getting what you want.
Don't you think though that as children, because if you take say a 5-year-old, they're not going to understand that fully, so they're already getting that limitation set on them so young. So us as teachers who come to them later, it's a lot more digging at a therapist level than what we were trained to do. So in my culture, I have a lot of kids that they hit middle school and they're like, I don't want to do this. It's pointless, and I can help them learn the value of an assignment, but it's not going to change
Yeah, no, I hear that, yeah, that's tricky. But you know what's a resource that I recommend that was like invaluable to me when I was working with the younger kids and their parents? It's called 1, 2, 3 Magic. Has anybody heard of that? It's amazing, right? Is it Dr. Phelan? Phelan, I think, is the author. It's amazing. And all it does is doesn't get theoretical, because you can't, right, with like little kids. You just want to have them learn that they are powerful because they create consequences. They create, with my decisions, I create this outcome. So it's all about unemotionally having the child discover how they create their lives. It's really powerful stuff. I highly recommend it. Because that could be a tremendous resource, not just for you, but for you to share, well, for you to share with the parents too. And it's a quick, easy read. In fact, it's super short. It just explains the theory and the practice. And then it's just the rest of the book is all these great examples of how it's applied. So it makes it really practical. It's awesome. Okay. Let's get to the practice. The problem is the gift. Remember, I referenced it earlier when I was asking you to be thinking about what are the things that you complain about most frequently in your lives. So let's have fun with this, because fun is intelligent. There's tremendous intelligence in fun. You know, one of my most despised phrases is, there's a time for work and a time for play. Well, I think that's stupid. There is no time for work. Not if you're interested in being amazing. There's no time for work. You want to make what you do playful. Activates creative genius. So let's make a list. Let's start off with the problem. We've got like space for 2 problems. So think of what are some things that you complain the most about in your life, and list them next to number 1 and number 2. What are the big problems in your world? Did you have a question? Oh, no. Okay. Okay. And push yourself to make at least one of them, something that you see as a real serious problem. Not like traffic. Something more important than that. Okay, we're not doing anything beyond that. We're just listening to the problems. We're not converting them yet. So, who is comfortable articulating out loud a problem? Yes?
I chose to make mine professional.
Okay.
Students and parents are apathetic about school and education.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see how that wouldn't fit well in your world.
No, because I am not apathetic about school and education.
Yeah. Okay, so then our next question is it even possible that something fantastic could be created out of that exact set of circumstances? Is that even a possibility? Well, what do you think?
Change it so that they are enthusiastic.
Well, no, let's have it just be a yes or no. Okay, good. So then as long as you have a yes, that's even a possibility, then we can move forward with this practice. If the answer is no, the practice is over. And that will just be a problem for you. And you can have that. But we'll never be able to explore the rest, the opportunity, or the possibilities. Right? So we can move forward. All right, so now we can open this up. Can anyone, you included, well, let's start with you. Can you visualize? Can you even fantasize? And don't worry about being realistic. Seriously, that's one of the dumbest things that we could do when we're trying to reprogram our minds, is conform to what we've been taught is real, because that's actually the problem. We've been taught it's real that this is a problem. So, what is the possibility of something fantastic? Something truly, like, measurably useful and valuable could be created out of that.
Are you saying, can I envision it changing, or can I envision that there's something useful that they're apathetic?
Can either, anything. Can you visualize or entertain the possibility of anything useful coming out of that exact set of circumstances? Could you, like what?
I can envision the student or parent changing their thoughts about it and being a positive influence on others because of that.
Okay. So now it's an opportunity. And do you see that there's true value in what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. And you are open to that as a possibility?
Yes.
So now you've got a project. Not a problem. No, that's the fun. That can be an amazing process. But it will be a horrible process if you have a problem with it the whole time as it is. It will just be horrible. And you may as well just stay with having a problem with it and not get into the project. Because it's not a project then. Then it's just a perpetual problem. But if you can reprogram yourself to actually enjoy it, it's like you have that. And it's not even necessarily an articulated mission out loud, but it's in you know it. And you're going to be in the inquiry, I wonder what else I could do differently. What can I play with here to massage this? How could I maybe strengthen my relationship with them, deepen the trust level, to see if we could dialogue on this and see if they're even open to alternatives? What could I do, some crazy creative thing that I would have never thought of when I was stuck and having this be a problem, just wishing they were different, that might be fun for everyone involved? And that's when creative genius opens up. That's when our problem-solving skills are activated most functionally.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying, and I can see how changing my thoughts to making it a project. But it's also, and maybe I'm not seeing it completely, because that's how I change my mindset. But there's another party in this project.
Yeah.
And my end result depends on the other party, no matter what my efforts are.
Yep. Yeah, but you still have, you could walk away from that experience, not have them change their mind, you be a different person for having gone through the project, which now changes the way you interface with other people with the same situation. There's going to be an outcome. Maybe not the one you want. And there's another opportunity for you to not have a problem with that. One of the things that we've been taught to believe that really messes us up is not getting what we want is a problem. We've been taught to buy into that, and that is nonsense. Us not getting what we want is simply us not getting what we want. I like to say there's no such thing as failure. There are only results, and all results have value, potentially. Right? So like when I get what I want, the value is obvious. I got what I wanted, and I get to celebrate that. When I don't get what I want, there and only there really is the opportunity to truly grow, which is amazingly rewarding in its own. What's another problem? What's one of the, if you're comfortable saying out loud, one of the things that you wrote down? Okay, thank you.
Some of our family.
Do I have to pay you for that?
No,
Thank you. That one's for free. That's on me.
next one. Some of our family members don't get along with my son's fiance.
including me. I don't know what the problem is. Okay. Okay, again. Now, did everyone hear what the problem was? No. Can you say it out loud again?
Some people don't get along with my son's fiance, including myself.
Yeah. It's true. Well, I wasn't going to be so harsh, but no, you're true. I mean, you're right. It is. Of course it is. I mean, by virtue of her having written it down, she's acknowledging, yeah, I am the one having this problem. So it's a problem for you that other family members don't like her. Including herself. Right. Okay, now, so back to the first question. Do you even see it as a possibility that there could be some value that could come out of this, even if it's fantasy?
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't hesitate with that?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. We can move forward.
Big project.
And you know what? It's like, I want to shoot. I'm going to Scotland on Sunday to play golf, right? I want to play the best round of my life on the hardest course, because that's a story, right? So big project, big payoff, potentially. Worst case scenario, huge learning. Isn't that great? You can't lose with that attitude. You can't lose. Do you agree? Because there's value. As long as I'm not attached to getting the outcome that I wanted, I'm going to do everything in my power. I'm going to operate from the all-in state. Did you guys get the all-in program? My all-in audio? Okay. Well, maybe we could redistribute that. It's phenomenal. It's the best thing I've ever created. And it's about the ability, the all-in state is just one of the many states that we can choose to create. And it's me getting infinitely committed, but not attached. Me infinitely committed to getting the outcome that I want, but not attached to it. Never having my joy or the opportunity for me to grow be contingent upon anything. Okay, so you got that? That's the practice. Okay, there's some more things I want to do today, but we could spend a whole lot of time on that. And I hope that you will spend a whole lot of time on that. Catching yourself when you're seeing something problematically. Catching yourself, like kind of waking up out of erased kind of from that sentence. Waking up out of the brainwashed state, right, when you're having a problem with anything in your life and asking questions like, is it possible something great could be created out of this? And if the answer is no, then just have the problem. If the answer is yes, then get into the project.
That's the hard part, is realizing the no to the problem. Because I find myself getting into the project way too long of a problem that never could have been solved in the first place. So if I was doing it earlier, never
that hurt.
solution, I'm going to spend all that time in that project instead of pissing me off.
Okay, so moving right along. So we really do. I want to move along. So now I need some volunteers. I need 8 people who believe that they have exceptionally strong focusing skills. Right on. Come on up. We've got 2. We need 6 more. 3. Take a seat. You got it? 4. We need 3 more. 3 more. Good job. He's already demonstrated it today. We need 1 more. 1 more pin, Rodney. All right. Now, for those of you who just didn't feel like going up front, spread some of those around. Here's one for you. So we're going to do a little experiment, as I said, in your focusing skills. Did you guys get any? Thank you. Just one for that table. And here? You go. I'll get some more. Don't interfere, just do it. Did you guys get any? Whoops. Oh, sorry about that. I just stepped on all your belongings. All right. Just let it. Don't have any attachment. Huh? No, you don't. No. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's an exercise in concentration. So simply hold the string in between your index finger and your thumb of your dominant hand. Rest your elbow on the table, and then bend your wrist over so it's like parallel to the tabletop. And if the weight's touching the table, just choke up on the string a little bit. Rest your elbow on, there you go. And bend your wrist over like that a little bit. Yeah, perfect. And choke up. Excellent. Now zone in. So, like super duper hyper focus on the weight. And listen to me speaking. If you could let that string, do you have more string? Like let it out as much as you can without touching, with it not touching. Now, with all of your attention dialed in on the weight, no takers. No takers here. You guys?
I'm not a concentrator.
That's awesome. This exercise isn't for me. I don't concentrate. That's pretty funny. All right, so refocus. Get your attention dialed in on the weight in front of you. And in your mind's eye, create an image, a vivid, clear image in your mind's eye of the weight swinging side to side, left to right. Literally, permit yourself to experience that happening in your mind's eye now. See it. Now, staying focused with all of your attention dialed in on the weight, now create an image of it swinging forward and backward, so towards you and away from you. Literally experience that happening in your mind's eye now. Okay, now staying focused. Now imagine the weight swinging around in a big old circle. See it clearly in your mind's eye. Okay, very good, very good. That's enough for now. All right, well done. Thank you, volunteers. Just stay there for a moment, though. It was what? Yeah. So who here knew that Tempe Mission Palms was built on a psychic vortex? Sedona ain't got nothing on us, baby. Okay, so what happened? It worked. Okay. Would you say that again? Oh, wait, don't say that. I'm going to work up to that. Yes. Hopefully no one heard it. So let's just we'll just state the obvious. So what happened? It did what I said, but more importantly, it did what you thought. Way more importantly. Because that's true, because you thought what I said. So it had nothing to do with me. We're doing spoon bending next. And then we'll graduate up to telekinesis, where I can get the glass. Obi-Wan stuff. Jedi. This is Jedi training. So it moved. It did what you thought. Why?
Because your mind, when it does it, your mind will automatically trigger your
That's easily the best explanation I've ever heard of that. Yeah, your hands moved. You're like the Deepak Chopra. That's actually funny. Yeah. She's like the inherent within your desires are the mechanics for their own fulfillment. I'm the house and the what guy. But we're both right. So, your hand, now did you know your hands were moving? Could you sense that? No. You could a little bit? You know, sometimes people have like a twitch.
It's finer than you could do if you were just doing this. What happened?
Yeah, it was it was just enough.
Right.
It's like, and this is the infinite, the wisdom of the organism, some folks call it, is the power of imagery. That we're always doing imagery, and imagery is nothing more complex than creating a picture in your mind's eye. That's why I was using that language, right? Creating pictures in your mind's eye. But this is really important because the picture is always becoming manifest. We're always unconsciously acting on the pictures. So we're making the stuff that we're thinking about happen. And when you know it. Which is why complaining is so stupid. Because it actually reinforces or strengthens the likelihood of the thing that we're having a problem with continue to occur. Because we're giving it psychic energy. We're giving it attention. We're placing our consciousness on it, and then as a result, unconsciously acting in ways that will maximize the likelihood of it actually occurring. So this is just a fun, gimmicky way of illustrating something that's truly profound. I just hallucinated that I was tripping. Can we delete that too? That's a redundancy. I hallucinated that I was tripping. That's a hell of a trip, isn't it? Wow. So the question then is, what are you thinking? Right? Like whatever we're always creating pictures in our mind's eye. It's daydreaming. That's what it is. It's just, but some scientists like to call it experiencing the future in advance. Right? And there's great application for this for training and for preparation. Right? Those are really the two ways that I can use imagery in my life, is to prepare for something, to train for something. Like athletes actually. There's a story, you guys, thank you for volunteering. How about a little love? There's a true story about a guy who was, he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was an American soldier captured, and you know the stories, about how the horrific nature of that. And this guy was kept in a box, took his clothes, barely fed him, just enough to keep him alive, messing with his head every day, threatening to kill him. He's hearing sounds of, war going on outside this little box that is all shrunk up in, smaller than he is long, and he was going nuts. So this guy happened to be an avid golfer. He was like average at best, the weekend warrior, but he loved golf. So what he did, simply as an attempt to escape the reality of his situation mentally, he just fantasized about playing golf. And he would do it all day. But what he did was he treated himself to amazing golf. So he imagined himself playing while he's a prisoner. He's at first he's hitting terrible shots. He's like, for God's sake, I'm a prisoner of war. The least I can do for myself is play a little better. So he imagines himself playing great golf. Phenomenal golf, and he's getting really into it, because the more into it he gets, the further away from the reality of his situation he seems to be, right? So he's imagining perfect shots, right, and the motion involved in it, and perfect outcomes, seeing it and feeling it for hours and hours and hours, weeks and weeks and weeks and months. He gets rescued, and however, not before having lost 80 pounds. He was emaciated, muscles atrophied, totally malnourished. He gets home, gets some of his health back, and of course, one of the first things that he wants to do is go play for real. And guess what happened? He had the best round of his life, having not touched the club in who knows, 2 years, and having been physically and emotionally tortured, lost 80 pounds and gained some of it back. But he comes back and he has the best round of his life on his first round back, measurably better. Why? What about it? He was literally practicing. So your hands were moving, well, so were his muscles twitching, his muscles were firing, but he was training his muscles because he was focusing on hitting perfectly. And he knew what that move meant. He knew what it had to do, what it felt like to have a perfect contact, to have a perfect move on the ball. And he was literally getting better. He was literally becoming he was developing muscle memory. Right? So that's how you can use imagery. That's, for your golf game, for training for anything, right? Preparing for anything. And then I do imagery before I come in here. I got a pregame, right? Where I actually visualize myself performing well, like interacting well, being present with you and having some fun, visualizing the outcome in advance. Before I get on a call where I'm going to be talking to say a decision maker in a multi-billion-dollar company is considering signing a big contract for me to do corporate coaching with them, I am totally visualizing that in advance for a while. I'm visualizing all kinds of scenarios. I'm envisioning myself being needless. I'm envisioning myself coming from a place of pure service and inquiry, if it's an appropriate fit. I'm visualizing myself responding as an expert, and a curious expert, to even explore if there is work for us to do without attachment to the outcome. But I'm envisioning all kinds of different scenarios. So I encourage you to figure out ways to apply that skill as well. So let's do a little. Are there any questions on that? I know I'm leaving that a little bit vague right there because of time, but I wanted to at least introduce it. There's again nothing. The complexity of the power of imagery is already taken care of in our bodies. We don't have to do that or worry about it. We can just use it. Envision outcomes before events that you care about. Envision how you want them to go. Envision how you want to be in advance, and as a result, you're maximizing the likelihood of that occurring. All right, folks. That is actually we have like one more minute. So I'll do a little summary of the tools that you have. And we just barely scraped the surface, but we did cover the mother lode. Again, as I said in the beginning, if I could only spend time with people on one thing, it would be what we did here with the freedom formula and learning how to choose to elevate our state for no other reason than we can. But there are many other reasons to do it. One is to feel amazing. The other is to create amazingness. Right? We have access to every single state, and in every moment of our lives, it is a choice. Exercise the choice. It is difficult, I agree, but with practice, like everything, it becomes mastery. Okay? So practice catching yourself below the O-line, in other words, feeling unpleasant, owning it by saying to yourself, I'm not feeling this way because of what's going on. I'm feeling this way because of the way I'm thinking about it, and I get to upgrade that if I so choose, and choose that. Experiment with it. Right? Gratitude is a perfect default. Enthusiasm, any high-grade state. Eliminate complaints, right? Practice catching yourself with the problems that you frequently choose to interpret as realities in your life, and really give them the opportunity. Just have a totally different relationship with them. See if you can create magic out of the thing that you used to get stuck on and stifled by and paralyzed by. See if you can, like an alchemist, create something beautiful from that, right? And use imagery. Any more thoughts or comments or questions? Thank you, Carrie, for inviting me into this great group. I hope to get to see you all again. I hope this makes your life better.